Let's talk about the history of the United States. States before it became what we know today. Way back before any European ships showed up, the land was already home to a bunch of indigenous peoples for thousands of years. They had different tribes all over the place, from nomadic hunters to folks who settled down and farmed. They had their own languages, traditions, and beliefs tied to the land. Then came the Europeans, starting with Christopher Columbus in 1492, sponsored by Spain. Other explorers followed, like the Spanish and French, bringing disease and changes to the land. The English set up colonies along the Atlantic coast, with Jamestown becoming a success in 1607. They grew tobacco and relied on indentured servants and enslaved Africans. The Pilgrims also landed in 1620, looking for religious freedom. As the 18th century rolled around, the colonies were booming. The population grew. With lots of European immigrants and enslaved Africans, the economy was diversifying and tensions were rising. Eventually, the Revolutionary War broke out in 1775. There were some tough times, like the winter at Valley Forge, but in 1781, the war ended with Cornwallis surrendering at Yorktown. It was a big moment for the young nation American Revolution and independence. 1775–1783. The Revolution began with conflicts like the Boston Tea Party, 1773, and battles at Lexington and Concord, 1775. The Declaration of Independence, drafted by Thomas Jefferson, was adopted on July 4, 1776. With aid from France, the colonies defeated Britain, ending the war with the Treaty of Paris in 1783. The United States was born early, Republic, 1783–1860. The U.S. Constitution was ratified in 1788, establishing a federal government with George Washington as the first president, 1789–1797. The nation expanded westward through purchases like the Louisiana Territory, 1803, and conflicts like the War of 1812 with Britain. However, slavery became a divisive issue, with the North industrializing and the South relying on enslaved labor's Civil War and Reconstruction, 1861–1877. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 triggered the secession of Southern states, forming the Confederacy. The Civil War, 1861–1865, pitted the Union against the Confederacy, ending with Union victory and the abolition of slavery via the 13th Amendment. Reconstruction aimed to rebuild the South and integrate freed African Americans, but it faced resistance, giving way to segregation under Jim Crow laws, industrialization and expansion. 1870s in 1900. The late 19th century saw rapid industrial growth, immigration, and westward expansion, including the displacement of Native Americans via policies like the Trail of Tears and reservation systems. The U.S. emerged as an economic power, marked by innovations like the railroad and telegraph. Though labor unrest and inequality grew, our 20th century world power, the U.S. entered World War I, 1917–1918, and World War II, 1941–1945, cementing its global influence. Historical USA.